This is day 6 of the April 90 7-day retreat at Springwater. Yesterday we did not get to our third concern, whether I have faith in that things will take care of themselves. It was mentioned in one talk, specifically in reference to giving a talk. And just since bringing up the question yesterday, several more people were really interested in this thing of whether, not just whether Toni has faith, but if there is such a thing as faith. And what it is. To enter into this thing we hear so much about and maybe have been brought up in a faith and would like to have. And hearing so much that one needs to have faith in oneself. And just right now before the talk, during the round of sitting, thinking about this, I realized I didn't really know the proper definition of the word faith, which would be helpful to start out with, so we can all agree on what, at least by the dictionary, the word faith means, is supposed to stand for, and I've written it down here. That the root of the word faith has to do with other words like confidence, belief, to urge, to be convinced, to persuade, unquestioning belief that does not require proof or evidence. Also a system of religious belief and unquestioning belief in God. These were some of the things that I quickly jotted down, I think was most of it. What interested me most was that in there is to persuade, to convince, and of course also no need for evidence or proof. And reading this kind of definition made me realize why I've had problems with that word. And that the first person who asked me, do you have faith in that things will go all right, or that whatever happens will take care of itself? I hesitated. To use that word. And yet, I did mean something in saying that there is some feeling, whatever name one wants to give to it, that in connection with this work as I see it, things take care of themselves. And why do I say that? And contrary to the dictionary definition, I feel very much that there is evidence for that. And that evidence is remembered. Held in memory, as it were, that taking the particular of a talk, in spite of worrying about it or not worrying about it, it has taken care of itself in the past. And more generally speaking, the whole coming into being of this place here, of the center, people coming here and continuing to come, has taken care of itself. Not that there wasn't effort expended in building or writing newsletters, but it hasn't been the effort of trying to make this thing work or advertise for people to come here, drum up business. It has taken care of itself. That is the evidence of the past and the present. In ways that if I think about it or would have thought about it ahead of time would have been too, at least for my feeling, too marvelous to figure out. The way the place was found, the building went up, people who come here to work, to help, to sit. It's all very miraculous to me that this thing works, that it does take care of itself. In ways, a line from Wang Po comes to mind, too marvelous to comprehend. By that I mean it can't all be analyzed. Can be analyzed, but that's not the fact that it happens. Now, do I have faith as one person asked, that this will continue to be like this in the future? And there again, the response is, I don't know. I don't think about it much. Times we have had trustees meetings where the specter is raised. How will it continue? Will there be enough money? Has been the concern all along, ever since we started out with what was termed by one financial analyst a mere survival budget with which not much could be done at all. That's all we could expect. So in such gettings together, of course, what is required is some projection in the future, and I've always had problems with doing that. Because I really don't know. Who knows whether people will remain interested in doing this work? If they are, this place will continue to flourish. If they're not, then it won't continue to flourish. I don't know what will happen. It all depends on all of us. And that is seen very clearly. And it's also seen very clearly that worrying about it, speculating about it, has nothing to do with what actually happens. And it detracts or beclouds a clear looking and listening and thinking now. So memory does come in, that things have worked out. I read some other place that a definition of faith, that it is the intelligence holding to memory. Or let's put it the other way around. If everything had tremendous difficulties, there have been this failure and that failure, and this thing not working, and the talks not working out, then there would be a different kind of memory. And based on that different kind of memory, there would have been different action, maybe more worry. That's what is the first action of this brain, is to worry. Will it happen again? How will it be today? And maybe this feeling that things will take care of themselves can be better described or gotten at by saying it's the absence of fear, of fearful thoughts, evoking feelings of uncertainty, anxiety, and then with that the tizziness of thinking, the disturbance in clear thought, panic, like chaotic things going on in the body and thinking. The absence of that, when that doesn't take place, then there is nothing to worry about. It may seem like a circular reasoning, but it's not reasoning, it is so. When one doesn't think something will go wrong, then there is calmness. And the calmness may very well have to do with things going right. Whereas the worrisome, panicky state, anxiety-ridden state may very well have to do with things taking a wrong turn. By wrong, we don't mean value-wise, but not the way one wants it to work out, or the way it works out harmoniously and satisfactory for everyone involved. Somebody else brought in talking about this, that somehow or other she doesn't feel that things happen haphazardly, randomly. We were saying, like, just shaking dice and throwing them, and this is how how things are happening. She said that is not so. A very, very deep feeling for that. And I share that quite a bit without becoming involved in all kind of unclear thinking or wishful thinking, because it so easily happens to feel one is sort of in the hands of some mysterious fate that is taking care of one. In that there's always sort of outside agents that are maybe believed in or thought about, outside forces separate from oneself or affecting one. I'm not getting into that. And yet I could share this feeling with this woman, that things don't seem to happen haphazardly. How they happen and what the convergence of things, people together, factors, what that is one doesn't know, but there is such a thing, there seems to be evidence for. How we hear about each other, how we find each other, run into each other. All along, looking back, that is, of course, using memory again and thought to string things together, events together. What one came upon, maybe what book, what person, what place. Was it a sheer random occurrence, like dice being thrown? Somebody may say, wait a minute, you don't know about dice throwing. That also has to do with the stars. And it's true, I'm very ignorant in all of those things. It may at times sound as though I was critical of it or rejecting it. Anyone afterwards who wants to talk astrology to me, I'm interested. I'll listen. And again, having evidence for this, it has happened, and it is happening. There's a certain absence of fearfulness or worry. And therefore also not taking certain steps that one would take if one was worried. I remember way back trustees meetings where one or two trustees were very much in favor, pressured toward our advertising in New Age journals about the existence of this place, or go to places and hang posters, hold more workshops. So people would come, and there was a strong feeling on my part not to enter into this kind of thing. Again, the feeling of faith, if you want to use that word carefully, not using any of this here. Confidence is, that's one word we can go with. Confidence that people will come on their own. And people who may not really be interested in what we're doing, not really at this point in time, ready to question, where it is very painful to question, very threatening to look or to hear about, not to artificially attract someone who's not into that at this moment. Because if you advertise, you always have to make something attractive, and that's already out. You can't try to make something more attractive than what it natural is for somebody to come here and quietly question and get in touch with tornadoes of thought and feelings and emotions and fear and whatever. Advertise that there is something that, when it is there, takes care of everything in a stillness and spaciousness and no timeness that cannot be described in words. If you put that into an ad, wow. And the first thing is disappointment. Where is it? All I find is boredom and anger. If I didn't say enough about this, or somebody would like to explore it more, then we still have meetings till tomorrow afternoon. The other question that is left is, what does it mean to die? What is death? What is this fear of dying that often we're not even aware of because we shove the whole thing out of the mind? The society in which we live, the civilization, culture, is part of that, shoving out of sight, out of mind, the thought of death and dying. I remember as a child, that was just one thing that wasn't talked about. It was a bad word. Certain things a child is interested in, but notices that the elders around turn stone faces or detract from what one is interested in. So one gets the message that here's something ominous, dangerous, dark, bad, not to be talked and thought about. And very often the elders, the parents and teachers or whoever, do it because they think it's too hard for the child to take. I think this is one of our big misconceptions, false assumptions. What oneself can't deal with, one projects on the child that the child can't deal with it. I found in cases where children have been freely taken into this whole matter of dying, which is occurring everywhere, to everyone eventually, where it wasn't said that the doggy has gone to sleep or grandfather has gone to sleep, where there's an openness about it, maybe even sharing one's inability to deal with it, but sharing that, not hiding that. That children have not noticeably been the least bit traumatized. Children want to know at a certain age. And can one, as a parent or aunt or grandmother, whatever, teacher, share that curiosity and not think I have to have the answers which I don't have, so either I can't answer it or I must make up something. But share whatever state one is in with the child. Maybe one's fear, but in looking at it together, wonder with the child why one is afraid of it, where it happens everywhere in this universe. Birth and dying, coming into life, coming into being and ceasing, is the most natural cycle observable in living things, which include what we have until now always called inanimate matter. Now, even in physics, there's a doubt that electrons are inanimate matter. They respond to information over vast expanses of space. Actually, space is no problem in responding to information between two electrons. So there is some beauty just in thinking that there is not this hard line of division between animate matter and inanimate matter. That everything is moving in response to everything else, affected by everything else. Life does not start with the egg being fertilized, human life being fertilized by the sperm. which is such a big issue now in this whole thing of abortion, murdering life or so. Life is there long before conception. And death too. I remember an incredible movie taken inside by this Danish photographer who's done a lot of inside the body photography. And what I called it in viewing it was the odyssey of the sperm on the way to the ovum. An incredible trip. Millions of them setting out. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was hundreds of thousands. And all the hindrances, all the deaths that occur on the way. I'm making it sound more dramatic than but it was dramatic. Only a few of these hundreds of thousands arriving at the fortress. Which it is, a fortress. Talking about the weak feminine and the strong, all of this stuff. And most of the sperms having to give their life to penetrate into this fortress, which is the ovum. And then we say, now life begins. Hundreds of thousands died on the way. Where was I? Yeah, sharing, we started sharing with children who ask questions, and therefore coming in touch with all of one's own uncertainties or difficulties to deal with something that is a natural occurrence in this universe, coming into being and dying. And why have we placed this total importance on living and shunted or delegated to the dark, the black, the bad, the unspeakable, death, dying? Again, a picture from my childhood comes to mind where in certain legends, death was always portrayed as a skeleton with a scythe in his hand. I always thought it was a his. Didn't think of it as a her. Mowing, cutting. And the picture of it was an eternal grin because there were the teeth and the hollow eyes portrayed this deathly grin at what he was doing. Because it has not always been portrayed like this. There's a beautiful song by Schubert, Death and the Maiden, where to the outcry of the maiden, "Leave me alone, you wild stranger, pass by, I'm young, go the other way," an outcry. And then this very calm, all in one tone, calm voice saying, "Give me your hand, you beautiful creature. I am a friend. I don't come to punish. Be of good cheer. I am not wild. You will sleep gently in my arms," because it produces imagery too. but not this of the glowering or what is the word? This gloating cutter with a scythe. Why are we so afraid of death, of dying? Probably one element here is that having lost people who are so dear to us, were so close to us, we so much loved them or dependent on them. They were part of us. Family, brother, sister, child, father or mother, husband or wife. If indeed there was this closeness, but one may think at the moment of death that there was. And now, this person who was part of one, felt as part of me, is gone, which is like something wrenched out of one's body. A vital part gone. That's how it feels. And the incomprehension, the cruelty of this happening, particularly was a young person, a young child, young brother or sister, or husband or wife. The incomprehensible cruelty of it. Why me? Why did I have? Or why him or her? When others can live, he or she had to die. Is that part of the reason that there is this negative feeling toward death? As something that shouldn't have happened, at least not now, maybe later, but not now. And yet it does happen. And we are left uncomprehending. We want to comprehend, we can't deal with it. It doesn't make sense. Is that what has given death such a bad name? Our not wanting to let go what was part of us, what gave us comfort, pleasure, maybe not even being with the person all the time, or not being in such loving harmony most of the time, but the idea of it. He's gone, she's no longer here. And the pain that an idea and a memory can immediately transform the whole body into one seething pain. So, death occurring, is there a way of dealing with it? Or does there need to be a real understanding of what is happening while it is happening? Will one wonder about it, look into what is happening, what has happened, this whole process, which is happening to every human being on this earth? One thing every one of us can be absolutely sure of is that we're going to die, sooner or later. And does that thought that we will have to die sooner or later need to wrench the body or cause fear, anxiety, pain, which it does for most people? Can one question into that, why it does? What it is all about? To just openly approach this whole thing? Again, with some curiosity. Why am I afraid of dying if I am? I'm not. This is a thing of the past. I'm not afraid of dying. How I will be when there is that moment, or the prospect, maybe terminal illness, I don't know. I can't tell. Right now there's the feeling it will take care of itself, but I don't know. I can't predict. But the thought, I'm going to die, which used to cause me considerable depression, doesn't do that anymore. I just noticed one day that it didn't do that anymore. I think it happened flying in an airplane, where a lot of us get these thoughts. And when the thing bumps up and down, you wonder whether this thing is going to crash and you're going to be in the headlines tomorrow. And if the thing really crashed, or a bomb exploded, or half of the plane pulled out and this seat jettisoned into space, I don't know how I would feel. I sometimes wonder how these people, I do wonder, how do people feel who were in that seat? Because you're not dead immediately, I'm sure, as you crash, as you fall. But the thought of it does not arouse any kind of anxiety or depression or the urge to shove it aside. What I do remember, though, when it did cause depression, there were thoughts upon thoughts about what would not be anymore. I would not see my favorite landscape, my favorite sunrise or sunset. Would not be with the people that I like to be with. Feel attached to. I wouldn't see them anymore. And that thought that I won't see this beautiful sight, the mountains, early in the morning, the pink glow on the glaciers, wouldn't see that anymore. That thought causes some pain and wherever, all over. And usually that isn't the end of the thinking. It goes on. A depression also generates more thoughts. Today, looking at, we all do it, right? When the sun comes over the hill, and for brief moments, right now when we're in the meeting room, these posts which are around the porch, they glow in an orange you couldn't put on a canvas. And the willows, the oak glows when the sun sets in the west. At times just the tops. Everything else is already bathed in dark, not glowing anymore, but the tops are still glowing. The next moment is gone, whether I'm alive or dead. It doesn't last. I'll never see that sunset again. And now this sounds like rationalizing it. And that's not what I'm doing, although that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to rationalize, just trying to point out. As we're living, every moment is absolutely, completely fresh and new and not the last moment. Unless it perseverates and keeps hovering and humming in the memory. But if it keeps humming in the memory, and one stays with that memory picture, then you don't see, you're not alive now. You don't see what's going on this present instant. You're in the video room, seeing a replay. That's clear, isn't it? As long as we live in our memories of last moments, or favorite landscapes, or the people we loved who have died, we're not alive now. We're already dead or half dead. The body doesn't function healthily because mourning and depression and pain distort the functioning. We talked yesterday about the 30,000 chemicals. It takes a lot of internal harmony in order for this to function properly. And clinging to depressive, anxiety or grief-arousing thoughts affects this harmonious functioning of the physical organism. The in-touchness with the energy of life right now is blocked through clinging to memories of death of the last moment, of the friend, the brother, the sister, the child. Does that make sense? Can one see that? Understand it? Because I remember when my grandmother died, my mother put on mourning clothes, a veil, and it was all pretty much prescribed for how long one wore a certain length veil. At first it went over her chest, and later on it was shorter and then just around the hat. My father had black tie on and a black band around his arm. I would have loved to wear black too, but children weren't included in that. I loved my grandmother. My mother didn't. She was always fighting with her. She was always preventing my grandmother to talk about things to us that I would have been interested in hearing. But my mother didn't want her to talk to us about certain things. Maybe she was afraid that my grandmother would talk about Jewish things. My mother didn't want us to get involved in that, protect us from that. Whether my mother grieved or not, I don't know, I can't say. But she wore these ominous clothes. How is it to look out through a black veil every day when you go out? Because in some way, I also was proud of that, because we were now something special. Not everybody wore that. We were in mourning. We got some special consideration from people. There was image involved. That was clear. It was clear to me as a little child. I didn't put it in those terms. But I had that image of us being in mourning, and it was quite clear from the way my mother bore herself, with the great dignity of a mourning woman, that there was image involved. So then, how can the brain sort out whether it is following convention or really feeling genuine feelings of grief? And what are genuine feelings of grief? For oneself, that one doesn't have this person anymore? Or for the other, that she died? I don't know. Let's keep it in mind and watch it when the occasion arises, which it does and will for all of us. I remember when I heard that my father had died, I was still... No, my mother. I don't know who. One of them. No, it was after I was back home from the trip to Switzerland. I was back in the bedroom, ready to go to bed, and suddenly the image of my father arose, the memory of him, in a very realistic way. I liked my father a lot. And with the image arising of him, his very rosy face and smile, gentle, kindly smile, there arose a surge of grief up to the chest, like when one is ready to cry convulsively. And that was seen. It came into clear awareness what was going on, not verbalizing it all, but it happened and it was seen, and that surge of grief and crying and convulsion abated without any control. It was clear that he was dead. There was a memory. And no matter how much one wanted him back or to be alive, that was just wanting. He was dead. There's a memory. And that was seen without intention or command, verbal stuff. It just happened like that. Somebody mentioned in one of the earlier meetings having found a dead chickadee and holding it in his hand, looking at it, wondering, is it dead or is it alive? What is it? Is it dead? It was dead. It wasn't even warm anymore to the touch. But the way he expressed it, it was clear that he wasn't looking at it as a dead chickadee or a dead bird. And I think we all know that if one looks at something with a preconceived idea, as a dead bird, then something has already happened. There's something projected, or one can't look innocently at what's in one's hand. And can we do that? Yes, we can. We can do that. We may not think about it and then drop it or try to bury it and not even take full note of a certain revulsion or maybe sentiment. There is conditioned sentiment in us about dead people or dead birds. We're conditioned to say, oh, too bad, or something like that, to have a change in facial expression. Because this is what one does. We're brought up this way. It's like putting on the veil, putting on a certain attitude or expression of sentiment. Or, I don't want to hold a dead bird. There's something untoward about something dead if one has not been in touch much with. And of course our parents, if they had seen a child hold a dead bird, would immediately scream out, "Drop that! Don't touch that." Maybe not all parents, I would have. Thoughts and knowledge about possible decaying processes could be contaminating, not clean, and all of this kind of stuff. But here, he was holding this bird and was looking at it, wondering whether the word dead even applied. Obviously, it was not flying anymore. It wasn't warm, the little body wasn't pulsating with heartbeat. All of that wasn't there. And yet, the way he described it, the eyes were open, the beak, the feathers, the little feet. What was it? If it wasn't a dead bird, in quotes. I mentioned at that point once seeing on a nature movie an amazing scene. Showed a dead rabbit, and with a photographing process which I think is called time lapse, when it goes very fast, is that time lapse? Compressed, a duration of time compressed by letting go of certain pictures. In this process, within a few, I don't even think it was minutes, there emerged all kinds of animals, larger ones and progressively smaller ones, which cleared that rabbit out completely. You could see before your eyes the emerging of other animals, birds, and then later insects, maggots, which hadn't been anywhere around before. But now with the presence of this dead rabbit, they emerged and they took care of everything that was edible. And then there was just left the clean skeleton. And the animals that had fed were gone. Bone used to be very precious to natives for tools, needles, decorations, incantations, symbolism, the eternity. Bones are often a symbol for the everlastingness of things because they decompose so slowly. Is a bone alive? What is dead and what is alive? And why is one afraid of coming to an end? It's so late, I shouldn't be continuing. Is it because of the attachment to one's story, which one wants to go on and on and on in thought? And while attached to one's story in thought, going on and on and on, dead to the life this moment, the crow cawing, the grass greening, the snow falling, the stars, the clouds, ever changing, never the same from one moment to the next, and neither are we. Everything is changing. What is there to hold on to? What is there to continue except a string of thoughts or a stream of thoughts? Can one die to that stream of thoughts? Can there be a dying to that? Someone is asking. Dying to the compulsion, the power of the stream of thoughts. And in that dying be alive to whatever else is there beside that stream. We will end here for today.